On Friday, Canada's very own dear leader, Trudeau, announced a ban on all handguns in the country. He's calling it a freeze, but it's effectively the same thing, putting an end to all legal firearm transfers in Canada. Hello, Liberty fam, and welcome back to the channel. In honor of today's video, I'd like to remind you all that Palmetto State Armory is a friend of the channel. They're local here to South Carolina, are working to bring steel ammo production here in local factories, and every bit of freedom you purchase through my link helps the channel. Check them out at the link down in the description and the pinned comment. Trudeau put out a short and to-the-point announcement on Twitter, following it up with an official press release from the government. Update! People can no longer buy, sell, or transfer handguns within Canada, and they cannot bring newly acquired handguns into the country. And that was that.
Horror and sadness all over Canada tonight.
Hey, guy, I'm the Canadian Devil.
The Canadian Devil now has complete control of the souls of every Canadian. This is a sad day for Canada and therefore the world.
According to the Canadian government, there's been a drastic rise in the number of guns in the country over the last decade, with 70% more handguns in Canada than there were in 2010. And fewer guns mean safer communities. That's why the Government of Canada is implementing some of the strongest gun control measures in a generation. Handguns are the weapon of choice in most firearm-related crimes, which is why limiting the number of handguns is a critical part of our plan to protect Canadians from gun violence. And yet, despite that 70% rise in guns, the country's rate of violent crime has stayed pretty flat. So why act now? I mean, aside from the power grab and effort at complete control. Well, it turns out that there is a major gun control bill working its way through Parliament, touted as the strongest gun control in 40 years, and Trudeau decided to just sort of jump the gun. The bill is Bill C-21, and while the government admits that it is still being debated in the legislature, Trudeau apparently deemed it necessary to take immediate action. The bill isn't even out of committee, hasn't reached their Senate, and isn't even halfway through the process to become a law. But Trudeau wants a gun ban, and he wants it now.
I stab you.
I'd like to say that that must be a Canadian thing, and that we don't do things like that here, but that's what unconstitutional executive orders are for. The country has already banned over 1,500 types of so-called assault firearms. Trudeau did that in 2020 when everyone else was busy paying attention to COVID. The government also notes something else interesting in this press release. Since 2016, the Government of Canada has invested almost $1 billion to address gun violence and keep guns out of the hands of gangs and criminals, including supporting work to crack down on gun smuggling at our border. Last year, the Canadian Border Services Agency made a record number of gun seizures at the border. First off, I didn't realize that Canadian gun smuggling and Canadian cartels were really that big of a problem. Second, prohibition of anything always leads to a black market for that thing. Drugs, alcohol, 3D printed guns. It's not rocket science.
It doesn't take rocket appliances to realize.
So the idea that banning something as part of an effort to stop the black market is a special brand of mental gymnastics. But it's also curious that this announcement and the reasoning comes on the heels of that Canadian police officer found surveilling an American gun show in Montana incident. Just a funny little coinkydink. The new freeze will have a couple of exemptions. Limited exemptions to the national handgun freeze will apply. For example, high-performance sports shooting athletes and those who carry handguns as part of their lawful profession will be exempted, as well as authorized businesses such as gunsmiths, the film industry, or museums per their license conditions. And that's it. So as a little recap, no one in the country is allowed any new handgun to buy, sell, or transfer any handgun, except for the police and government. And of course, museums and films, but really, that's not a ban. That's disarmament. The freeze was first announced in May after the Uvalde incident that had nothing to do with Canada. At the time, Trudeau touted it as a prevention method to make sure nothing like that ever happens in Canada. Though what made that incident so deadly was the fact that the area was a gun-free zone and that the police apparently didn't find it necessary to do their fucking jobs and even detained folks that tried to do it for them. How this freeze is supposed to change any of that? Not really clear. The announcement basically gave Canadians 5 months to try and hoard whatever they could, which hopefully they did, because if history repeats itself as it so often does, Canada is heading for some bad times. That's it for now, and let's hope that Biden doesn't get any funny ideas out of this one. You guys know the algorithm drill. Like, share, and subscribe if you're new here. Drop a comment down below because every little bit of interaction helps get this video out. If you'd like to help support the channel in other ways, there are a plethora of support options down in the description. And as always, thanks for tuning in, stay safe out there, and happy shooting.